Happy Information Wednesday, Shalise McQueen here. I am bringing you a brand new topic today regarding the small business insurance. I know a lot of us have our small side hustles and we may not think that we need business insurance. The reality is just because we're operating at a small level, maybe even out of our own house, that does not mitigate us from, of course, the risk involved with running and operating a business. But the reality is everyone has a target on their back. And so whether you're a big corporation or a small mom and pop business like myself, you certainly have the risk. So my favorite saying of all time is you don't have to be a millionaire to be sued like one. And that has been ring true time and time after again. So before I opened my business, of course, I shopped around for business insurance. I have a real estate that I own that my office runs out of. And of course, I have, liability that I have being an insurance agent and also a real estate agent. And so I wanted to make sure that I had a policy that encompassed both my exposure owning real estate and both my exposure, obviously, running a professional service, such as providing my real estate and my insurance services. And I was so shocked of how little business insurance actually is. So I have $1 million coverage protection for my general liability on top of having, of course, my real estate coverage. I pay $104 a month. I mean, that is absolutely nothing for all the coverages that I'm receiving. And there's so many other endorsements included in my policy that I never would have thought about, such as like cybersecurity breach. Who would think that somebody would want to, hack into my server or my emails? But the reality is, no matter how big or small you are, you do have a target on your back and you have the possibility of having a data breach. And from my example, I have a software that I run that has all of my clients' information in it. So that's important that I have, obviously, coverage for cyber data breach, which I never would have thought about. So I want to also jump into the fact of, there's a lot of people that run a small business. Maybe they manufacture a candle or a scent. I know that it doesn't seem like maybe a large risk, but you are manufacturing. And in theory, there's so much things that go into manufacturing that the risks are so much longer than what you can even imagine. So it's so important that you have coverage and protection on your side when you are manufacturing a product. Even the Poshmarkers out there that are simply recycling products and reselling, there's still risk and exposure when you're having an exchange with a customer. Uber and Lyft is a great example of this. So of course they provide coverage when you actually have a passenger in the vehicle, but the time that you don't, so then when you're on the way to pick up that passenger after you drop them off, in essence, your Uber rider falls off, and that's when your personal coverage basically comes into play. And without having that personal coverage, you have a whole lot of risk. So the same thing happens in a day-to-day transaction when you have a small business. Whether you're preparing your goods to ship them out, the shipment gets lost in the mail. We have all these that's why the mail service provides, insurance for your packages, because things do happen. There's human error involved, and it's important to make sure that you have coverage all across the board, especially when you're providing goods and services to outside parties. Whether you're doing it out of your house or out of a different real estate office or whatever it may be, you have exposure no matter what. So at the bare minimum, if you have any kind of side hustle that you're operating out of or you're starting a brand new business, I'm here as a resource for you. I have been involved in many startups. I started many companies, so I know the ins and outs of what's important. Of course, on the insurance side, I know what kind of exposures are there, what kind of risk you have, and obviously the coverage that you need at the bare minimum to make sure that you keep yourself out of a lawsuit. So now why farmers? So Farmers actually is rated #1 in the state of Arizona and also in the nation. We are #1 for small business insurance. #2, we provide something called loss prevention. We have someone that comes out to the property and meets with you on a yearly basis to kind of just go over everything and make sure that they see any risk or things we're doing differently to make sure that you're mitigating that. Also, we have something called SafePoint, and that is a hotline that's free to our customers. You get to use any time to call to ask things about HR, payroll, your HR, obviously loss prevention, any question you possibly could have that relates to you as a business owner. You have a resource that is free to you through Farmers. My favorite thing about Farmers is we don't have a negligency clause in our policy. What that means is even if you're found negligent or your employees found negligent or whatever it may be the issue, we are not going to deny coverage on you. Where a lot of other companies do have that clause in the policy where if you are found negligent, lo siento, sorry, we're not going to provide you coverage because in essence, you shouldn't have done that. Again, the reality is we are human and we make human error, and sometimes in those errors, it is partly negligence sometimes. So it's important that you have a company that has your back regardless of what the scenario of the claim may be. The other thing I love about our policies, we provide actual replacement cost. So a lot of companies will provide actual value of your item. So say that you had inventory that was 5 years old, obviously for you to buy it 5 years versus now, there's going to be a price variance. And nothing's going to be worse than you having to replace inventory, whether you had theft or it got ruined somehow through fire or whatever the loss may be. And you have to go replace those items with what it cost 5 years ago versus what it costs today. With farmers, you don't have to worry about that. You're going to get the actual value, replacement value that you have today. Last but not least, of course, you have an agent like me on your side. I'm a small business owner, so I understand what the risks are, what coverages you need at the bare minimum, and also the bottom line, which of course is our cost. When you own a business, the cost is everything. So it's important that you do have a cost-effective insurance provider that provides you coverage that you actually need and is not nickel and diming you on things. So at the bare minimum, you have me to be kind of your guide down your business insurance and make sure that you are properly covered. If you have any questions on today's topic, by all means, feel free to give me a call. I've done several startups, like I said, and new businesses. So I kind of know the runaround of how this works. So I'm happy to be a resource to you. My phone number is 602-525-5665, or you can email me at cmcqueen@farmersagent.com. Next week, I will be diving more into business insurance because it really is a very important topic. But I'm going to be talking more so about workers' compensation. It's important that, of course, it's statewide mandated. You're required to have that if you have an employee. I want to talk about what to look out for, how it works, and of course, kind of promote that Farmers does provide workman's compensation 30% below a lot of our competitors. So it's definitely a great product. So be sure to tune in next week, and we will see you then.